Good morning, Rhea. Good morning, Valerie.
Hi, good
Good
morning.
morning. It is morning for me. You can see my bedhead.
Yeah, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. We'll just wait here for Sam, Nathan, and Anady to hop in.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're bright and early, right, Valerie? You're just turning 7 a.m.
Yeah, I'm up at 5, but I'm actually doing a lot of things to get ready for my workout before that.
Yeah,
So this is hitting right in the middle of when I start to work out. So I'm just shifting my workout an hour. So
yeah. All right, we'll get everybody here shortly, hopefully. I sent out a reminder. There we go. Sam. Valerie, who have you had an opportunity to actually chat with and meet so far?
well, I have Marie and I have Anadi. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, I've set those up. I've waited on Nathan. I don't remember so in the introductions. So,
Okay,
but I'm maybe I'm missing it.
gotcha. Morning, Sam. I know Anady is actually on a meeting right now with my wife, so as soon as they are done, she will be over. And I'm just gonna ping Nathan here. And Sam and Valerie, have you guys met yet?
I've met no one other than Nathan.
All right. So Sam, you and I got connected from
Through Mary
Mary
Catherine.
Catherine, who I got
Oh,
connected
that's the
to
one I
from
was.
Valerie.
Yes. When I got messed up in the name, Dave, that's who you were saying Mary Catherine introduced.
Yes, that's right
That's
too.
the
Yeah, the
name.
confusion
That's
in our email.
yeah.
Okay, I'll wait about one more minute here and then we'll jump in and start.
So how did you meet Mary Catherine? Was that through me, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, your connection from you. And when we were discussing what she does and what I do, she introduced me to the concept of a learning design specialist and then introduced me to Samantha.
Which I think, in Dave's opinion at this point, I'm just very costly and very expensive. And I keep coming up with more problems.
More problems, more ideas to fix. It's all good. We're going to do it right the first time.
I'm still annoyed at them. I reached out via their they had a what the hell is it called? Survey. I'm going to follow up with them again today since I've seen that they did not respond back to you, or if they have, they've
Well, I just emailed them
privately.
yesterday afternoon, so
So,
I'll give
but isn't that
a
the
short
second
amount
time
of
you've
time.
emailed them? Because you emailed them first.
No, the first one was just you to review to make sure I was
Oh,
capturing the ideas
I could have
properly.
swore it said I was CC'd.
You were, but that was just the email. I just wanted to be sure that I captured
Oh,
everything, the issue.
I'm
So
so sorry. I
yeah.
was like, this is great. I'm like, he nailed it. Why am I? What does he need
Uh,
from me?
I guess Valerie, just to kind of just so you're not in the dark here on what we're talking about, Sam and Nathan are building out Tavuti. Sam's does the learning design specialist, and Tavuti is a little bit clunky when it comes to their interactive capabilities
Oh,
and how it operates. So Sam and they I had asked these questions prior to beginning with them, and they assured me, it's a very smooth process to build. Um, Sam believes we need to add in a third-party software called
I
Articulate.
don't want to. I want them to build their damn platform out properly. If
Right.
they're
Well,
going to claim it, they should claim it for what it really is and not lie.
right.
well,
Sorry.
we do have to have it. We have to be cautious because you're adding in a third-party element and Carasoft that becomes vendor risk. So we do need to make sure that whoever that third party, if those guys aren't going to fix it, Dave, whoever that third party is has to meet the same requirements.
Articulate's a internationally recognized software
It-
for building out. It's wraps everything in SCORM. It's an
It wraps it in
international.
form. Okay.
Yeah, it's
That
fully compliant. So
well, Tavuti FedRAMP was a big, so FedRAMP is a very big deal, and as long as it's wrapped in SCORM, we're okay. But the
mhm.
reality is, we're still with Tavuti, they need their sponsor for FedRAMP moderate, and we still have DFARS on on the distributor agreement that we're having to write language to get around. So we just have to be cautious with any third parties that they fit in that for the distribution that we're working through.
I just wanted to let you know. I mean, the DoD even uses Articulate, so just to put it in that perspective, the federal
That
government
one
uses
that
it.
that's the one I'm worried about. So anyway.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll dive into that more after. So,
No worries.
Nathan, Anna D, are you guys there?
Hey, yeah. Good morning, guys.
Yep.
Sorry for coming in late. I just got off with Daily.
Yes, I told him that you were in a meeting with her. So, welcome everybody here. This is our first all hands on deck meeting. We're going to be running them a weekly cadence right now as we get started. Valerie's going to have a lot to do with these, and I know Valerie's going to be connecting with each of you and going through meet and greet and having a lot of deep discussions. As we expand on these and get things running fluidly, we hope to back the cadence off to biweekly and then down to a monthly component. Today, we're going to dive into introductions of everybody, everything that we do, the exact direction of Pursuit Pathways, our go-to-market strategy, and really try to bring everybody into the fold here so we get some synchronicity working amongst everybody, whether, right now we're still in the build-out phase. We're in the build-out of the content, we're in the build-out of the marketing, we're in the build-out of the strategy of go-to-market, but it's going to evolve pretty quickly here as we go. So I want to take a moment and have Valerie introduce herself. We'll go through afterwards, do a round table, and I'm going to plant a seed or a question right now because we're going to start every meeting off with either a joke or a thought of the day or something. So in your current role that you do, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And so when you go to introduce yourself, you can discuss that. For myself, so, and I know everybody here, but founded Pursuit Pathways on the concept of ending internet child exploitation, reducing victimization of human trafficking, and it's caused us to expand into a lot of other areas as well, including workplace violence, fraud and financial crime, education and training. But for me, if I could have a superpower, it would be to erase the memories of children of the harm caused to them through online exploitation. It has such a massive impact on their life from children that they carry through their whole life. And I've said the one thing is that if I could ever go back and change what happened to them, I would, but I can't. What we can do is change how they approach life going forward. But if my superpower could be one thing, it would be to erase the memories of anything that's ever happened to them. So with that out of the way, I'm going to have Valerie introduce herself. Valerie came to us with her company, Lodestar. She owns a couple companies, but we've hired Valerie on as a chief revenue officer and a fractional component. I've known Valerie now for probably going on about 8 or 9 months. She was hugely instrumental to me in the concept and idea of workplace wellness and taking what we do and delivering it to the workplace. So Valerie, with that said.
Yeah, so I'm Valerie Cobb, and I have I can't beat that superpower, so I'll just adopt it. Partially because Dave and I we met through sort of a networking group, kind of indirectly. We were referred, and what he is doing is near and dear to my heart because I have a husband who was a victim of a pedophile when he was young, and his memories are never erased, and he has been debilitated throughout his life because of it. And at the end of the day, all children have the right to have a happy childhood and a safe childhood. And it would solve tons of problems in our globe today if children were treated the way that they needed to be treated to nurture and grow and not stop their development. So Dave and I would chat often, and I knew his mission was to end child exploitation, and often we need to fund our initiatives through other ways in order to get our initiatives out there. So we started creatively brainstorming different ways to go to market and help him achieve his goals. So this mission is near and dear to my heart. And I look forward to, a little bit about me, if that's okay. Fun fast facts, I was a professional opera singer for 18 years, coached it for 10, and I am an expert sort of marksman on top of dirt bike riding as my favorite, and I love scuba diving. And I have 5 brothers who give me that side of the fence, the excitement side of the fence, I would say. And I sat behind my husband on our first date because my roommate in college liked him, and girl code said that you permitted and it switched around. So there's a fun fast fact. I do own a couple of companies that are all chief revenue officer or interim CEO based companies, and one of them is in cyber governance risk compliance. And so anyway, right now, so those get tied together very closely because we're working through some of the similar organizations. And yeah, just excited to go to market for this thing. This is going to be great.
Amazing. Thank you. I just learned several new things about you myself that we have never discussed. So you can sing through the meetings now.
No, now I'm old and retired from all that. You wouldn't want me singing it.
There we go. Anity, go ahead.
That was fast. Hi, so I'm Anady. I'm located in Philippines, and what I do with Pursuit Institute with Pursuit Pathways is I'm on the back end, so I do all the stuff, random stuff at the back end. So I've been with you guys for almost a year now, right?
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Pursuit Institute with the Lens Company. Yeah.
Yeah. So for my superpowers, that will be a happiness preacher. I myself, I grew up with a very, very strict parents, and I never realized I am having through as some stuff as well personally. When I was doing your slides, Dave, remember I was telling you that I'm learning a lot, because that is just like an awakening for me that, oh, this happened to me. This stuff happened to me. It's just that as a kid before, I'm never aware of what's happening. Like you know, you and no one's protecting me. My parents doesn't know what's happening, and it's because I'm afraid to speak up as well. And so I just want happiness all over the place, all over for everyone, because the trauma that it brings to people is really bad. So if I could just lift it up a little and ease up the pain, I think that would be great.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, Anity is definitely kind of a catch-all. Anything that Delyn or I either don't want to do or don't know how to do, or just don't have the capacity to do, she's our kind of our go-to. And she's learned a lot. She's fantastic at what she does. She brings a lot of creativity to the table. And yeah, she's learned a lot of new skills and traits because we've dumped stuff on her plate that she's like, I'm not quite sure about that one, but let me dive in and learn. So thank you, Anity. Nathan.
Okay, hi, good morning to everyone. I am Nathan Nelson Totalina. I am from the Philippines, also same from Andy. For Pursuit Institute CC and for Dylan and Dave, I mostly do some tech stuff, mainly revolving on automation, website. I also do a bit of marketing. Before I was working with Dave, I worked as a de facto marketing director for a real estate coaching company that is based in the States. And I learned a lot of, like, most of the stuff that I'm doing right now from them. And I am looking to have those stuff implement, and I'm using those stuff to like share my insights with Dave and implement that on their business to make it a tad better. Also, I am also trying to like focus on more marketing stuff by having a startup marketing marketing agency here in the Philippines, in which all of the stuff that I also learned will also help Dave and those businesses and his businesses. If I have one superpower, I think it would be to read people's mind. Because if you're doing marketing and doing like tech stuff, you could understand what is the idea of what they are thinking and what you could do to have those ideas implemented on your business. And aside from that, have their attention and make them buy your product or service. So yeah, I'm Nathan and I do tech and marketing.
Amazing. Thanks, Nathan. And so Nathan and I connected when I was in search of how am I going to build out a learning management system, both from a time standpoint and a tech standpoint. And so I was scouring, looking for a VA that would be able to do that. And I came across Nathan's profile, sent him a message. And I can say one thing about Nathan is that he is very problem-solving minded. He brings to the table problems before I know that they exist or that they could exist, and he's already looking for solutions, which is amazing to have somebody with that attention to detail and eyes on a business and the operations and development of it. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Samantha now, because her and Nathan are working alongside each other on the build out of Tovuti.
Okay, hey, I'm Sam. Yeah. uh Whatever. I was playing around with Tavuti while everyone was talking and taking notes on everything that everybody said. So, the big thing is my background is in education and learning, including learning management systems. So not just the creation of curriculum and learning materials, but also in the understanding and comprehension of the actual learning management systems that are operative. Hence what my issue with Tavuti is right now. If I had a superpower, I would have a time turner so that people like Nathan and I could have infinite time. To be able to do all the things and still sleep. Sleep is such a crucial aspect of life. But it would also give us infinite amount of time to be able to actually do the things that we need to do to make things happen. Because I was torn between that or the Midas touch, so having infinite amount of funds to be able to implement all the things that I would want to implement for all of the people in all of their avenues, which would include also being able to get them therapy and all the help they need. But time is really the issue that I would take ownership of. But yeah, my background, like I said, education and all aspects of education from K-12 all the way through adult learning. So it's why when I got on the call, I was immediately complaining about the software not doing what it said it was supposed to do.
Right. Yes. And I've learned one thing from Sam. Well, when we initially connected, we had already built out our initial LMS on My Learning Hub, and Sam really introduced me to the idea of curriculums and pathways and enhancing that end learning experience. And as we've been through our Tabooty meetings, the one thing that I've really learned about Sam is she's very direct and honest in her approach. She doesn't mince her words. If she does not like something, she tells them right straight how it is. And so thank you, Sam, for that, because I think it creates a level of accountability for everybody. It sets the expectation and the standard of which it is and how we approach this. So thank you. And last but not least, our social content creator, Rhea.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Rhea. I am here in Philippines, like Nathan and Andy. So I am behind of the accounts of the Lean, Pursuit Institute, and now Pursuit Pathways. So I'm handling the social media content. I design the graphics. I also edit the videos. Um, yeah, I'm also I had a background with teaching, so I'm a licensed professional teacher here in the Philippines. So working with Pursuit Pathways is, I think, aligns with me because with my passion of education and sharing valuable information. So yeah, and also for the superpower, like Nathan and also Sam, I would like to be a mind reader because I really want to know how people are thinking. And also, I want to fly because the traffic here is very heavy here in Philippines. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Rhea. Rhea is relatively new to everything that we're doing, both with Pursuit Institute and Pathways. Learning more and more about her, she brings some creative ideas, and she's really quick to adapt to change and learning and engagement in that regard. So thank you, Rhea. And let's jump into this, guys. I want to really, so everybody here, so we're all operating on the same page. I want to talk to everybody here about our approach to how it is that we got started. Our origin story is when we began, when I began, we began under the umbrella or the company, which was initially called Protection, and Protection was spelled with like TECH. And the whole concept and idea at that time was to introduce a product to parents and youth about how to keep themselves safe from the dangers that existed in the online world, specific to the topic of online exploitation in all of its forms. And I really realized quickly a couple things. One, I couldn't just stop with online exploitation and child exploitation. It was too interconnected to everything else, whether it was adult exploitation, fraud and financial crime, human trafficking, and everything else. And when we initially launched that company and that concept of that business, very few parents, there was so much kudos, so much applause, so much we need more of this in our world and people doing this, but there was really little action being taken by people. And I really realized quickly, so part of my background and business background, I've been in the health and fitness industry as well for about 20 years. Just recently, I've kind of made my exit from that industry of owning and operating various health clubs. And I realized there was a direct linkage in society between people really don't fix a problem proactively. We wait until we have a problem that we're faced with, and then we're left to reactively try to fix it. And so when that model wasn't working was when Valerie and I crossed paths, and she said, hey, I have an idea here. Have you ever thought about introducing this into employee wellness programs? And so that sent me down this path of really studying employee wellness. I was familiar with it from the fitness industry. I had a strong understanding of it because I've worked with organizations and employee wellness engagement tools before. But really kind of compiling a lot of numbers and studies and then drawing a linkage or a thesis behind if something happens to somebody or their child, a loved one in the online world, what does that impact on them? And really what that led us to now is where we're going to is looking at organizations, and we've, talking about what productivity is and how productivity is impacted in the workplace. Much like the parents, Valerie and I and another advisor that works closely with her, a gentleman by the name of Mark Finnick, who I hope one day I get to introduce everybody to as well, was a former IBM executive, talked to me about this, and he said, Dave, he said, CEOs, CFOs, human resource executives of companies and organizations are going to come to you and say, hey, this is a really great cause of what you're doing. Great. How is this either going to make me money, save me money, or eliminate the risk from my company? And so that's where we really have to approach it, talking about productivity. $1.8 trillion is lost annually in the US alone, and almost $9 trillion lost globally to productivity in the workplace. And that comes down and links back to employee wellness as well. If an employee is not well, if they're not engaged, productivity decreases. And when we talk about productivity, we're talking about things about presenteeism. You know, when they're at work, they're not really present. There's absenteeism. There's possible turnovers from their job, which relates to higher expenses to the employer. And so we drew a connection between when something happens, if somebody's safety is compromised, or if somebody's been extorted online, it's going to have a profound impact on their wellness. Okay, when it comes to financial crimes online, it's estimated that only 3 out of every 100 are reported. So that means 97 people are suffering in silence. 10 to 20% of online, it's the only 10 to 20% of online sexual exploitation is ever reported. Okay. And it comes down to people not reporting out of fear, embarrassment of what's happened, and simply just not knowing what to do. So when we look at the numbers that we have, we can only really imagine how magnified those numbers are. And when that happens to somebody, if they've even been extorted for only $500 online or $1,000, them or their child, that gives people a very, very sick feeling in their stomach. Okay. I talked to a very well-educated woman, Debbie Montgomery Johnson is her name. I've done an interview with her. She's a very well-educated woman. She got taken for over $1 million in an online romance scam. Okay. There is no level to what this can happen. Online threat actors are very, very, very good at what they do. And so when somebody's been harmed, it's going to trickle into the workplace. And that's the thesis that we've drawn up. Okay. The stress can lead to anxiety. Anxiety can lead to disease. That can lead to increased medical costs for organizations. So that is kind of what our job is here, is at the back end. Our goal is to end internet child exploitation, reduce victimization of human trafficking. But on the front end, when we're talking to companies and organizations, we have to show them how we can save them money and how this is a strong benefit for them to enhance. And beyond saving them money, we're looking at this from an employee engagement standpoint too, because if I work for company XYZ and they tell me, hey, Dave, we've got this new initiative, we're going to be educating you on work time about the dangers of the online world and online exploitation and helping prevent these things from happening to you. Plus, we're introducing mechanisms within the workplace that if something ever did happen to you, we can help you report it. We can help minimize the damage that's caused to you and your family and help you move forward through this. And now the employee engagement is going to go up. Their connection to their employer is going to be greater. And I see a world as well where when employers or companies tell the public what it is that they're doing, that the trust from the company, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, also increases. Okay. Now I want to talk about one thing here when it comes to this, because this world of this crime that's happening, it doesn't discriminate against any demographic. Anybody can become a victim of it. On the other hand of that, anybody can be a threat actor when it comes to it too. High-ranking government officials, high-ranking executives in companies, right? And if there's one thing that I can do, because there's no doubt at one point in time, we're going to work with a company where people making decisions may be involved in these crimes themselves, is if I can raise their awareness about the impact that they're having on other people's lives and to help them turn a stone in their life, that's amazing. Okay. There's no doubt, even when it comes to human trafficking, right? That there's executives that work for these companies that are going out and purchasing these services themselves, and they don't truly know the impact of the victim that's on the other end of that. And that's what we need to raise awareness for, and that's what we need to stand for. And so when you are creating, when your hands are touching this business, when your thoughts are touching this business, I want you to keep those thoughts in mind always about our mission. Rhea had, in one of her social posts in our kind of calendar content creator, really made me realize something. And it was a post about, and I had never connected the dots, that every second an incident of online exploitation is being reported. Last year, the National Center Missing and Exploited Children reported over 36.5 million reports of online exploitation, 99% of those which related to child sexual abuse material online. And that's just for every one of those reports, there's hundreds that go unreported. And so I looked when Ray said that, I'm like, well, how many seconds are actually in a year? And it's like 38 million seconds in a year, or 30, I forget, about 36 million seconds in a year, something. And it's true. Every second, there is a report of this happening, theoretically, when you look at those numbers. Okay. That's what we stand for. That's what our company stands for. That's what it is that we're working on. Our goal is to create greater awareness around the topics while adding layers of protection. I can never guarantee prevention, but we can give people the tools and the resources they need to prevent it, or if something happens, that they know how to get in front of it to lessen the impact that it has on their lives. Outside of what we do, there's no easy to access education available on the topics of exploitation and trafficking. There's many blog posts, there's short videos, but there's nothing really that takes a deep dive in an easy way in which we approach this. Workplace violence training is something else that we do. There is a lot of greater content available on that, but our approach is to provide unique and different education. It's a custom approach. And so what I mean by that is if we do workplace trafficking education, or sorry, workplace violence education or human trafficking, it doesn't matter. When we direct it into a specific industry, if it's targeted at the law enforcement industry or the healthcare industry or the education industry or corporate, the approach is going to be different. There's always a certain unique, main component of it all, but this is where then we break off and create these different curriculums and learning pathways around the topic. If you are a healthcare industry in downtown Los Angeles, or you're in workplace violence training in downtown Los Angeles, that may differ than my small town in Ontario, Canada, where I'm from. And so we customize that learning approach because when it's customized, when it's relevant, when people can relate to it, the odds of them embracing it and that knowledge and those thoughts sticking to them are that much greater. So that's the approach that we take. We're currently actively working on our go-to-market strategy, our target markets, our target numbers. This includes market research and analysis that Valerie is compiling, product positioning, marketing strategies, sales strategies, and other technology and tools that we need to implement. And we're actively working on this as well as other opportunities and looking to align ourselves with nonprofit organizations that we can support through our revenue generation. We have some interesting opportunities now with a organization called Carahsoft, which is a US Canadian government IT solutions provider. There's a lot there that I am learning. I am learning all these amazing acronyms that Valerie was talking about on the call at the start, like DFARS and FedRAMP, and God knows what else I'm going to learn when it comes to this. And I'm really trying to wrap my head around this, especially from that compliance standard and everything else that we do. And Valerie's got some other opportunities identified, and I'm going to have you kind of hop in here, Valerie, and talk about our go-to-market strategy and how we're going to tackle this and, where we're at and what that approach is going to be.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dave. I've been taking copious notes if you heard clicking, because that's how I absorb, is type at the same time as listen. So Dave, would it be prudent I'm a visual learner. Is it prudent to show the spreadsheet on where we're going and some of that, or?
For sure. And so do you want the 5-year model?
Yeah, and I can share it or you can share it. It's up to you. I
Yeah,
don't. have
You know
that,
what? I'll give you the host. That way you can click and go where you want to go
Okay.
instead of telling me where it is that you want me to be. Valerie did a fantastic job here on starting to compile all of this when it comes to workforce violence as well as employee productivity. So I'm going to
Well,
have her share.
Yeah, I'll share it. As we all know, I loved Sam. I loved your superpower, the Midas touch. It's really hard for me to decide what kind of superpower on something. And the reason is, and I talk a lot about why people buy. And if you guys want to be able to read minds, that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Why do people buy? They buy for their reasons. And if we could read their mind, we would know their reasons. And so instead, we try to guess on their reasons. We have a lot of intent software. We have a lot of different things that we can tap into to help with that for buying journey and trends. But the challenge that we do have is funding all of this, right? And because of that, I also wish I had the Midas touch. And so how do we get funds quickly? In a startup realm, a lot of times you can't get much investment. Dave got a little bit, but you just can't because it's just that kind of environment, right? So where do we go? Where do we start? So one of the things that we went through, and because it's a trend, is workforce violence. And yes, there is other e-learning modules and things like that in this workspace. But one of the things that turned me on to this sort of idea of funding it through going through corporate America or healthcare or whatever we were doing was I worked with Kaiser Permanente in there, and you might not know that from the Philippines, but Samantha might know of this, right? So I worked with their organization on their preventative campaigns, and they were a gold standard in the United States for what's called an accountable care organization, which blended healthcare, insurance, everything under one roof so that you could take care of the entire customer and patient. That's what they would call them. Anyways, at the end of the day, we found that preventative campaigns in healthcare made it so that people lived a better life back in the day, and it was called the Thrive campaign. And in that Thrive campaign, it was all about saving millions and billions of dollars in healthcare so that Kaiser could go and fund more initiatives, but also it improved lives. Right? I mean, everybody wants to live a life that is free of pain and suffering and all of those things, right? So in that, there was the employee engagement portion of that. And a lot of those stats are very noticeable through Gallup polls and all of those things. And so Dave was giving some stats there. And California, and the reason I'm going to bring up these counts, because we need to cast, we don't read people's minds. So we're trying to cast a wide net of what's trending. And California just happened to pass a law, and in the United States, many other states will follow suit from California. So there's 5 states that they follow suit. That's very common. I used to work in tax and all sorts of things. So very common that they will follow a law that will happen. And California is one of them. New York's another one. Massachusetts is another one. So you're following the data trends of which states lead out. And California just recently passed a workforce development training law for obviously workforce violence. Now that's getting us too close. That's getting us close to our initiative, but really it's a lead generator for us. Because the reality is that's the hot trend, so we can talk about that, but we can also add into that the employee productivity category. So in this TAM, SAM, SUM, if you're familiar with total addressable market share, service addressable market share and service obtainable market share, the United States has a population of 331 million. No, we're not the biggest. China is, obviously, with that involved. So we're not saying that it is a massive pool, but it is something that we can control. California is 39 million in and of itself. So it is a massive population pool. And with that, the workforce percentages can be calculated. They fall into, you know, a certain percent fall into regulation. That's about 20%. And they adhere to regulation at 40%. That's a stat that's also out there, right? So if you are required to do something, organizations will adhere at 40% until they get dinged with something. And then everybody will start to conform. So California will start to ding people for not conforming. And when I say ding organizations, it's usually monetarily, and it can also put them in jail. So usually people change when something really bad is about to happen to them. So at the end of the day, targeting that, we know that for the United States, we have a TAM of 157,000. So all this means 157 million. All this means that if we even take 1% of market share for just employee productivity, we end up with 126,000 targets. What does that tell me? That just tells me that we can create the financials necessary at $1.50 MRR, $18 ARR per employee in educational component. We can bundle workforce with employee productivity and hit Dave's goals. Which, when we go back to Dave's goals are to end, and our goals as an organization, right, is to end child exploitation globally, right? How do you do that? You get enough funds to be able to get the voice out there, right? And so some of the go-to-market strategy will all kind of go around this concept of these two products, employee productivity and workforce violence. So we're going to call them products at this point, right? And when we go to market, all videos, all podcasts, all social media, automation, all of those things, all the content will be centered around that. And again, David mentioned tailoring. There's a ton of industries that we touch on, right? If we use the gym membership option, which is what Dave also knows, that those industries have to have some tailored component to it. If we're talking to healthcare, we're talking patients versus customers. If we are talking banks, we are talking customers. If we are talking credit unions in the United States, which you might not know what that is, but that's just a different type of, kind of like a bank, they call them members. If we are working in government, it might be manufacturers and some of those things. So we have to be able to tailor some of that for each of those organizations. Now, we have begun a partnership or a distribution with Carahsoft, and that is what Dave was talking about. We had some fine language that we had to, so we didn't expose ourselves to risk, that we had to work through. Carahsoft will be getting us basically marketing lists for selling into any of the government agencies. Now, the government agencies are ones that do have to follow very quickly some of these laws. So we will also be targeting what is called municipalities. Municipalities are basically the city governments, the local governments that have to also, they have police force, they have the school districts, they have all of those kinds of things. We will also eventually target school districts, but those are very long sales. Corporate America is your faster sale, right? Those would be third-party Anybody who handles benefits. So there are organizations called PEOs that run around and create benefit packages that we are heading into October in the United States. That's when they do what we call open enrollment. Open enrollment in the United States is where they bundle healthcare, where they bundle gym memberships for wellness, where they bundle all of this stuff. Sorry, the sun's coming through my window. And so I'm like turning sideways so that I'm not, anyways. So we will be going very narrow, hitting the October deadlines for that third party, what we call TPAs that bundle all that through. So PEOs are one of them. Another is just HR. HR at organizations, again, there's a human resources department. They are the ones that actually hire typically the PEOs to create the bundles. That is where we will be trying to also get lists for free from Carahsoft. Carahsoft also has a trade event that we're trying to get on in October to sit in their booth. So we will need marketing materials very, very quickly for hitting an October deadline, probably by September 1. And I will have to have it be very simple because we are almost behind on workforce violence for California. And that's why I was setting up appointments with Rhea and Anadi, and eventually I was leaving Nathaniel out of it until they were done with the setting up the platform, because we will need some changes on websites and different things to pull up around this kind of go-to-market strategy. There will be a formal written go-to-market strategy around some of this, but to give you a sense on how vast that is, we are only trying to get a very small number in this the last quarter almost of this year. So we're not targeting a lot. Dave was talking to an organization with Accenture, and they had 5,000 employees. So that was literally one customer eating up a very huge portion of even 1%. Does that make sense? Because these are employee counts. These are employee counts. These are not per organization. So if we target that one organization might have 5,000 employees, that would add this as a gym membership. You can divide that by 5,000, and you can see that we only need a couple of organizations to start to hit our numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate to ask you this because I'm lost in an explanation, and I think it's a crucial explanation. Have
Okay.
Nathan and I had workforce violence course information shared with us? Because based on the naming that I see in what Dave has shared with me most recently in all my saved files is understanding, recognizing human trafficking, understanding online exploitation, employee sexhortation course, human HR sexhortation content development questionnaire, human resources I can't say that word, sexhortation, but I don't, in everything I've seen, I do not see a workplace violence specific.
Those are coming. So you have those because National Grid that we're working with had put in the request for the courses in relation to the online sextortion, human trafficking, and everything like that. And that was one with Accenture. We've kind of hit I wouldn't call it a stalling point, but some roadblocks internally with them and the approach to purchasing it. But that was going to be when I sent that to you, was going to be the first possible customer that I was going to need content in there for. Nathan on the previous platform has already built out some of the workplace violence content. If we had to, I could take that SCORM file and put it into Tovuti today, and deliver workforce violence training when it comes to threat recognition, de-escalation techniques, active shooter training, and everything else. But those will be coming in very short order on the build out of of everything. Does that help you with that understanding? Because we
Yeah,
had
you
this
just-
opportunity with National Grid.
Yep, you just kind of gave me a panic attack with having it due in October and having never seen the materials and being very realistic
It's
on
yeah, it's coming in short order. And I've asked Nathan as well that if he's going to need help on the build out to speed up the go-to-market process, to let me know. If we need to throw more additional resources at it in the building of Tovuti, we will.
Okay.
The
I have a
other
question.
thing is most of the time, there will be a lag from signing to actually delivery. Some of this that we're targeting on these bigger companies, they take 6 months before they actually sign an agreement. So
I understand that. My just concern is if this was due for October, even to have a demo available, Nathan and I would have needed that material to make sure that we have access to it in a proper fashion. That was the only reason why I was asking. And Nathan also had a question.
Yeah,
Nate?
never mind. I'll just ask that later on.
anyways, hang on 2 seconds. I gotta shut this window because this is driving me crazy, trying to see everybody's reactions, engage everybody's reactions while I'm not able to see you guys. So anyways, at the end of the day, we will be building Salesforce or sales functions, all of the revenue flows based on this kind of setup and KPIs and everything else through that. So funnel level of effort, if we look at revenue per sale, the funnel level of effort would be that if to produce 1 million, we would end up having 1 million USD. I know we're international here, so everything right now is in USD. We would need a top of funnel of cold outreach, social media of about 10,000 hits. From there, we would need to convert about 20%. And as you can see, there's the cold outreach conversion to marketing qualified leads, marketing qualified win rates to sales qualified. And some of this terminology may make sense, may not. Nathaniel, if you're getting into marketing, it should start to make sense for you. As we boil all of these rates down, we will hone them. This is a guess. We will hone them further. But as you can see, if you have 9,000, you have $9,000 per sale, that's kind of based on what we would need. We would have a win rate of 112 to get to that 1,000. Does that, million, sorry, I said 1,000. Does that make sense? So that's what we will begin to target and make sure that our marketing activities and all of our social activities are driving top of funnel into win rates.
This is the forecasted revenue is for annually. This is
Yes,
annually.
eventually it will be annually. Yeah.
Okay.
So when we go in and we look at a monthly P&L, starting with National Grid, you will notice that there is $0 coming in. In October, if we could sign the 5,000, this is the subs that will be added. Okay. So subs, we're doing them by employee versus by organization right now. Okay. So if we add and sign that deal, we will start with 5,000, and we have workforce violence and we have 0 in employee productivity yet, simply because that's being baked out. If we can work fast enough and capitalize on some of workforce, then we will begin to hit hard on January 25th, another organization that might have 5,000 more, right? And so we are targeting organizations that have a larger employee count at first. This is just a model. It could be that we end up with 300 organizations that only have 500 employees, or, you know, there's all different ways to work the math, but we had to start somewhere to say, okay, well, what is the exact target? Because we're not going business to consumer, we're going business to business at this point. So as this target in these numbers, we will combine that with the funnel level of effort, right? To say, okay, well, what is it that the marketing and sales team have to accomplish? Delivery will also, as we fine tune these things, delivery will know kind of leeways and lead times, etc., for when we have to deliver based on where the market hits first. We're guessing. We're working both of these angles simultaneously, but we're doing an educated guess based on this. From this, we end up with ending subs, but if you look at a 5-year and don't look at anything else, we are saying for 2024, if we could end up with 2 clients basically at 5,000, maybe a little bit more, or maybe a mix of 100 clients, either way, then we're adding some revenue, a very nominal amount of revenue to the bottom line for 2024. Very nominal, but we're trying to fund what Dave is actually doing. We are then hoping that from all of this with Carahsoft and everything else, that we will start, there won't be much churn this year. We will start with that same sub count and add a nominal amount, but that nominal amount is still a 341% growth over that. But this is only 0.62% of that 10% of SOM. So it is doable. It's very, very doable. Then we have a 3% of this 10%. And we have, now we're getting up to 10% of this 10%. So it's very, very tiny. We're still not even at the service obtainable market share. We're targeting very, very low some of this. Dave is hoping that eventually we will get to that 10 million-ish mark so that he can then start to go B2C and get his curriculum out, so his voice is out, and he can fund some new marketing campaigns and also give a piece of it to some of the survivors. So the organizations that are surviving will be part of this campaign. We will be contributing a certain portion of the e-learning to organizations that have children that have been exploited, the National Center of Child Exploitation, but there's also a ton of sex trafficking organizations globally that run campaigns all the way around the world. So the more that we can fund this through some of the other organizations, the more we will be able to partner with victims as well and help them and have curriculum for them for helping prevent or work through helping erase their minds of the trauma, right? It's not going to happen, but help with it. So this is how we're trying to work through a self-funded versus trying to get somebody to fund. At the same time, we will look at government grants and different things on top of that, but we've got to take this a step at a time. Government grants take a lot of time and effort and energy to get. And we don't have that kind of luxury at this point to do that. So anyways, this will give you all a sense of kind of where website has to go. This gives you a sense of how many impressions that we have to get through LinkedIn, Facebook. All of it becomes a mathematical equation. We will watch very carefully the trends and whether we're hitting. We will be augmenting Dave's even LinkedIn page and his profile to make sure that we're matching and capturing this kind of audience at first as we transition. And that's why I set up meeting with all of you individually so that we could kind of go through what that is, because there will be questions like, Well, where do I spend this money? Well, we don't want to chase any shiny objects at this point until we're more funded. So we want to be very targeted on all of this, right? So any questions so far?
I mean, I'm good. I really like it. It gives like, could I have a copy of this?
That's up to Dave. Yes, this has been made available. I'm a very transparent with organization on purpose, because I find that when we support what we're all doing together, we should be able to see those numbers. So Dave, if you're fine with that, you
Yeah,
can.
it's funny you say that because Nathan asked me sent me a message, can I get a copy of this? And I said, let me just check with Valerie to make sure there's no issues, because I said I don't think there will be. And I'm 100% transparent on this too, so that's important to me to share that. And when we look at all of this too, we're looking to fund some major initiatives when it comes to victims, survivors. For anybody, here, I guess almost all of you, or at least for Anity, Nathan, and Rhea, have worked alongside Delin. I want you to look at that kind of aspect of somebody who has been a victim of one of these crimes. If they wake up every single day telling themselves, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, they're never going to move past that and get to a point where they can lead the life that they deserve to live. And it's really helping reverse that and get to the point where they use that victimization for empowerment in their life, and how are they going to use what's happened to them for them. And ultimately, working with organizations and a lot of things that we can do to do that, and funding other initiatives that can actually work proactively with law enforcement and going after the people who are committing these crimes. Anybody, and this is something Valerie and I have spoke of, but we have not built in, that anybody who's touching our business that's going to have an impact on these numbers, we do want to come up with a compensation plan as well, that shares in helping us get to and achieving these numbers beyond, what your day-to-day contracted rates are with us. So that's something that you can expect to see soon as well. And I know we're right kind of at our hour mark here, and there's lots to discuss, but it's anything else that I have on my agenda easily can be moved to next week. Sam and Nathan, for you guys, will definitely be looking at an update on Tavuti and where we're at. And I think I want to have a couple conversations with Sam and Nathan as well, and Valerie to be included, on if we need to throw some extra resources, manpower at the build out of this. But like Valerie said, and I know, Sam, you kind of backed it with, even a demo product is going to take time. So we will look at the prioritization of that as well. I look at everything not as how, why can't it be done? It's like, let's look at what we need to do to make it happen. And so let's take that approach and say, okay, what do we got to do here to get this out there? And I want to hear a little bit more. This would be a conversation from Nathan, because I know when he was building out on My Learning Hub, he was able to crank out a course like in 4 to 5 hours. And I know Tavuti's going to be a little bit of a slower build out when it comes to that. And so we'll discuss
But
that. And we'll overcome these things.
Dave, in all fairness, he was copying and pasting. And Nathan, that's not throwing you under the bus, but that's the conversation that you and I had. So if the goal is for me to teach Nathan how to do this in an effective manner without needing me to constantly be the consult in this one, to pretty much make myself obsolete, the idea is going to be that he's rewriting your
You're right.
text to put it into a facilitated educational experience, and not just copying and pasting. So, I mean, I've already told him, like, Grammarly's his new best friend, to make it more fluid, at least with vernacular, putting it more into the non-techie speak, but also just making sure it's grammatically correct, because as he and I were going through just that one course, we found multiple constructs that were confusing and leaves the learner lacking and had gaps. So the concept of 4 hours just flush it down the toilet
For sure.
because it's
Yeah.
not realistic.
No, I was just drawing that on comparison to say, I know that it's going to take longer now, right? And I'm just trying
Yeah.
to get an idea of that build out and the resources that we need. And we're here to support that and make sure, when we're looking at our initial funding and budget that we're working with, how does that build in and how much of a chunk of that is going to be needed? And that's important for Valerie to know because she's going to be looking at run rate of the funds that we have and going like, hey, like how much runway do we have here to, the funds that we have and how long is that going to take us? And, what are the objectives? Because we got to get to the point where the clients are coming in and kind of continuing to fund the project. So we'll get there.
Samantha, it may be that you have to, if the goal is to have Nathaniel be able to run this and you're educating, but at first we are against a market trend, it may be that the goal is to get that up and running, workforce violence. And if you train Nathan along the way, great, but he learns on some of the other items following the trends, and if that's the case, what does it take to get it done versus, throw out 4 hours, whatever, what does it take to get it done?
I
That's-
need to see the content because
Yeah.
I haven't seen that content at all. So I have no idea
And I
honest
wasn't
answer for
expecting an
you.
answer right now. It
Oh
was
no,
more-
I'm just letting
It
you
was
know
more-
because I haven't seen that content. I listed out all the courses that I had seen, so I have no concept of what that one specifically will entail.
Yeah, so again, we're not expecting an answer. I guess the question was more find out what it is that you need. Figure that in, get Dave an answer on what that would be, in that kind of time frame once it is there. And then we can make a more informed decision on whether
Oh,
or
yeah.
not.
But it just requires the material. So like just so you understand with what I do, I need to know what my baseline is to be able to give you an accurate answer because otherwise I'm
I'll get
throwing
that over to
spaghetti
you.
at a wall.
Yeah,
I
I'll
would
get
expect
that over to you.
something else too,
Yep.
so that's fine. We're not saying, again, we're not
Yep.
expecting an answer today. So anyway,
Okay.
that's kind of the thought process of getting to the goal. And then Dave, I appreciate the time to go through all that with the team. And then I'm sure that you and Samantha will work out whatever it is on what's doable and what's not doable in what time frame.
Yep. Well, I'll get that over to you, Sam. And initially, I wasn't going to be available next Wednesday for this meeting. I am now, so I think we can. I'm going to share some documents. Anity, once I have the recording, I will give this to you to save for us, and we'll give everybody a copy of the meeting recording. And we'll move forward. Valerie's got some one-on-ones with everybody here coming up and some discussions. So we'll identify the resources that we need, any problems we may be facing, so we can have the plan to go and overcome them all. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for coming, for your time. And if there's nothing else, we will continue to communicate and we will chat next week. And Nathan, yes, I'll hit stop recording. You can stay on there and you and I will have a chat.
Okay, thanks.
You guys, nice meeting
Bye,
you all.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.